Hi everyone, it's Ali and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm on the Butterfly Reflections blog today with this card, so please head on over there for more details and more photos. But I've made it using an Avery L set, the Peekaboo Fair set, which is just adorable, and also my Heffy Doodle Slimline Pulltab dies and my Heffy Doodle Slimline Trio dies. So the trio die I've just used to measure up my actual card base, so I've just marked with my pencil and I'm going to do a score line across there and fold it just to make my base card. And I know that fits my background piece really well. Then I cut my background piece and I also cut another piece of grey card to go along the bottom. Now I want to cut a line across, not all the way across this piece, but just so that I can slide 2 tabs across my card. So I'm just going to cut it most of the way, but not all of the way, and it's just above where that grey piece was sitting, or just below actually, so that you can't actually see the slit in the card. Then I'm going to attach that grey piece on to the front like so. Now I'm going to mask off that, I guess, the ground part and use my Tailored Expressions brush with some Distress Oxide ink in Tumbled Glass to create a bit of a background colour. And then I'm going to use the Halloween Party stamp set from Hello Bluebird, and I wanted the lights out of this set, so you might have another string of lights that you like to use. Now to get this stamped straight so that it can be easily die cut, I've used the die as a guide when I'm putting my stamp in my MISTI, just so that it all lines up with the die. So I put that in my stamps in my MISTI, put my stamp on top, pick up my stamp, remove the die, and then when you go to stamp the image, it's going to be perfectly aligned with the die. I find with some of these long, thin stamps that they can go a bit wonky when you put them down without a guide like that, and then they don't fit when you go to die cut them. So I just die cut those pieces and wanted them to go on the front of my card like so. Now I'm going to stamp out all of my images that I wanted. I was going to use the flags, but in the end I decided not to, but I did have a couple of them stamped out just in case, and I'm going to use a Copic friendly ink to stamp all of those up. I'm going to show you a little bit of my colouring today, not too much, and I will put all of the Copics that I used in the description box below so that you've got a idea of what colours I use. And I always start with the darkest colour in the areas that are furthest away, I guess, if you're thinking of it as a 3D object, or in the shadow part. And I've started, or actually probably for quite a while now, I've started to use a technique where I have 2 darker colours that are relatively close in colour, and I always use my Sandy Allnock hex chart, by the way, to get my colours and ideas of colours. So my first 2 colours will be chosen from my Sandy Allnock hex chart that are quite close together on that chart, and then my last colour I'll pick one that's quite light, that's a little bit, I guess, further away on the hex chart when you're looking at it. So there's more of a difference between my darkest colour and my lightest colour. I just find that this gives the image a little bit more depth and a little bit more interest. I think I picked a very light last colour here though, so I did go over again with a mid colour because I felt like the contrast was a little bit too stark and it didn't really look connected. The colours didn't blend as well, so sometimes I'll do that, but most times I'll have quite a dark, 2 dark colours and 1 lighter colour. So just going to adhere those onto, or adhere the unicorns to the bumper cars, I guess you would say. And then I'm going to show you how I created my slider mechanism to make them move across the card. Just attaching their little hands or hoofs there. I decided that background piece needed a bit more interest, so I just flicked some Distress Oxide ink with paintbrush in the same colours. Now I'm creating that background or the slider piece, so I'm just measuring up a piece that's going to hide behind that grey part on my card, and I've doubled over some quite firm cardstock and then I actually decided to go and put another piece on that cardstock as well to firm it up even more. So I'm just cutting it to size so that it goes about the same distance across my card as that channel that I've cut. Here's where I decided I needed to make it even more sturdy, and I just added another piece of cardstock onto that as well. So this piece is going to form kind of like the base for some thin plastic to slide around. I'm just going to cut a couple of notches in each end. They don't have to be perfect because you're not going to see them. They're just going to hold the plastic in place. And then I've got a little bit of a thin strip of plastic from packaging from an old stamp set that I've just cut in a thin strip so that it's about as wide as the inside of that notch. And then I'm going to wrap it around that long piece. I've used my powder tool just to help it slide a little bit easier. That's not an essential step, but it may help. And then you just want to wrap your plastic so that it's not too tight, but also so that it's not too loose. And in the end, I think I did make it a little bit loose to begin with. But there you can see how it works. It's just going to slide around that holder piece like so. I did make it, a little bit on the loose side, and see it's a little bit too slack there. And I tightened it up, but I actually think I tightened it up too much, so it was a little hard to pull in the end. But so it's just getting it that right tension, I suppose. Now I've cut 2 tabs, and one tab's going to stick on the front of the plastic strip and one on the back of the plastic strip, and so that when it moves around, they move together. Now I'm going to just make a pull tab to attach to the plastic piece, and I'm just going to use my Heffy Doodle die to cut that out. And again, I've done that quite thick. I've put about 2 to 3 layers of card together to make that. And there I should have realised it was a little bit too tight. You can see how it's just a little bit too tight, but I didn't, and I kept going. Now I'm making a little collar just to keep the pull tab from wobbling around, and I'm going to cover the back in 3D foam and then attach it to the front of my card. So I've poked the tabs through at the front, and I'm putting on a little slider tab thing as well. I probably could have used the die set to cut a notch, which would have been good, but I think I'd already attached it, and I was a little bit late for that. Now I'm going to put my unicorns on with some 3D foam, and I'm going to attach them to those 2 little tabs that are sticking through that slot that I cut, and just rest those on like so. And then I just stamped out the sentiment on a piece of black card and white embossed it and adhered that onto the front as well. So you can see how they work. So much fun. Thanks for joining me, and don't forget to hop over onto the Butterfly Reflections Ink blog. Bye.